Jeffrey McDonald today, now 47 years old and sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in prison.
I can never overcome fatal vision. I mean, we know that. I cannot prove to the millions of people who have watched the reruns over and over and over that I am not that monster.
Read this book and there's no doubt Jeffrey McDonald is guilty. Are you saying this is fiction?
It is a fiction book. It's masquerading as nonfiction. It's sold in the wrong rack at the bookstore. You know, I did not murder my wife. I did not murder my children. I never hurt my wife or my children.
On August 29th,
But if Jeffrey McDonald didn't kill his family, then who did? Well, this woman, now dead, maintained from the start that she and members of a drug cult were the real killers. But the jury never heard her confession, and noted Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, who's now taken up the case, says government prosecutors actually suppressed evidence that might have changed the jury's verdict.
It's the hard evidence in this case, the facts, that persuade, I think, any objective viewer who sees what the government told the jury, what the government had in its back pocket when they told it to the jury, and what we now have, which I think will persuade anybody that this is an innocent man who has been victimized.
I was face down on the floor, and the house was very silent. And then, like, memories were immediately flooding in that I had heard Colette and Kim screaming. So I got up and went down to the master bedroom, where I found my wife, who was covered in blood, and there was a knife in her chest, which I took out. And I began giving her mouth-to-mouth breathing. But my attempts at resuscitating her were clearly not successful. I then got up and remembered my child screaming. I ran to her room, and she was in the same situation. So I went across the hallway to my younger daughter, and she was at bed also. I don't recall her as she is pictured in the crime scenes that they've showed me. I remembered her a little differently. But she also did not respond to my attempts at resuscitation.
Hello, you transfer him. My next guest is the central figure in this matter, Dr. now, Jeffrey McDonald.
McDonald went on the Dick Cavett show and blasted the government for not following up on the investigation.
Where are these investigators now who did the original?
Well, most of them have been transferred. It's the only way of handling things. If someone really fouls up, you either give them a medal or you transfer them.
Oh, the government case basically went to the jury on the following theory. Jeffrey McDonald, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, has told you that this gang of drug-crazed hippies came in and killed his family. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if there were any truth to that, there'd be fiber evidence. There was a fight. There's supposed to be a woman with a blonde wig. There are no blonde hairs here. There was supposed to be a woman wearing dark clothes. Where's the dark wool?
Dershowitz is deliberate.
At the moment the prosecution was selling this bill of goods to the jury, they had in their files a synthetic blonde hair, dark wool, evidence that would have corroborated Jeffrey McDonald's account, an account he gave from the moment the police came to this very day, and the jury was denied that evidence. It's outrageous.
You believe that the prosecution deliberately suppressed this evidence?
I believe that the government of the United States deliberately suppressed that evidence. They probably had a good faith belief, like many Americans did at the time, that Jeffrey McDonald was guilty, and they didn't want to muck up their case.
But so what if other fibers are found? Aren't unknown fibers always found at a crime scene?
There were fibers found that tied in completely to the story that Jeffrey McDonald gave from day one. And there were facts that he couldn't have known when he gave that story, which this evidence corroborated. And that's what's so significant. And indeed, I believe that the government understood the significance of this. I mean, they disclosed a lot of fibers in this case that were of no help to the defense, yet they failed to disclose the important fiber evidence that would have changed the dimensions and the nature of this case in front of this jury. That can't be.
You're very animated when you talk about this.
Well, I'm sitting in prison. I'm wrongfully convicted. I've done 9 years. I'm fighting for my innocence.
Not only you say there was a fight in the living room, yet the living room hardly looked damaged. You say you were stabbed, yet there was little, if any, blood in that living room area by the sofa. There were countless holes in your pajama top, and yet there weren't countless holes in you. And your family had been murdered, butchered, really overkill. And relatively speaking, you were unscathed in that sense.
While I wasn't killed, that doesn't make me guilty of homicide. I mean, I've had to live with that I survived and my family didn't. But that does not make me guilty. And yet that is always what I have had to disprove. The fact that you're alive means you must be a murderer. Well, that's not rational.
To some, it might suggest that they were self-inflicted.
Well, have you ever seen anyone self-inflict multiple stab wounds and collapse their own lung and injure themselves in the head several times until they're unconscious?
Both prosecutors in this
A fox hunt. This is a quest for justice. This isn't a game. And Murtaugh is acting as if it was a game. There were rules, violated the rules. The American public wants to know, is Jeffrey McDonald guilty or innocent? Most of my cases are gray areas. You know, if he didn't do this, he did something else. And if it wasn't first degree, it was second degree. And if they're always the grays, very few cases in life unfold in black and white. This is a black and white case. Either this is the most horrible, merciless, brutal killer on the face of the earth, or one of the most victimized men in American legal history. There's no in between.
Is the man sitting in front of me Jeffrey McDonald? Is he a murderer? Or is he an innocent man, a victim of incredible injustice? I don't know that we will ever know the truth in that sense. Only you were there that night.
No, that's not true. The assailants were there. And they said they were there. And the evidence ties them to the scene. I identified 4 people. Lo and behold, 20 years later, we find out they existed. They said they were there. They had the same clothing on that I said they had on. They were seen going to the house. They were seen coming from the house. What they're saying is an innocent person shouldn't fight for his innocence. That doesn't make any sense. You would fight for your innocence. I'm fighting for my innocence. We finally have the evidence. Now it's time to be heard. It's time to go home.
What happens now?